Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're totally flipping the script on how we look at high-end real estate. We're diving into a fascinating guide by Jonathan Colford. He's a specialist in York Region luxury properties, and we're going to shift our focus completely away from the bricks and mortar of a house and look instead at the entire lifestyle that property actually unlocks.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. What actually defines luxury real estate? I mean, for years, we've basically been programmed to think it's all about, imported marble countertops, giant sweeping staircases, or just massive square footage. But is that really the true measure of a luxury home in today's market? Let's dive in and challenge that old school way of thinking. It really comes down to a massive paradigm shift. The old way of judging a home? It was basically a checklist. You count the bedrooms, you critique the finishes, you measure the square footage. But the new way, the modern strategy that savvy buyers in York Region are using, it's all about evaluating a holistic lifestyle fit. It's about the setting, your privacy, the rhythm of your daily commute, and how seamlessly you fit into the community. All right, here is our roadmap for today. 1. Beyond the square footage. 2. Identity, land, and privacy. 3. Nature and daily routines. 4. Prestige lifestyle anchors. And 5. Strategies for buyers and sellers.
Part 1. Beyond the square footage. The 5 anchors. To really set the stage here, let's look at a quote from the author of our source guide, Jonathan Colford. He's a sales representative with eXp Realty Brokerage, and he says, a luxury home in York Region should be understood through both the property and the lifestyle around it. And honestly, that right there is the core thesis of this entire explainer. You could have 2 homes at the exact same price point, but they can offer completely, vastly different day-to-day experiences.
So what exactly do we mean when we say lifestyle anchors? Well, these are the major non-physical elements of a property. We're talking about the specific neighborhood pocket, the actual land itself, your outdoor lifestyle, the flow of your daily routines, and those unique prestige features. These are the real underlying forces that dictate your long-term satisfaction and, ultimately, the value of a home.
Moving on to Part 2, Identity, Land, and Privacy, the macro view. It is super fascinating to see how York Region breaks down into these very distinct flavors of luxury. Because you aren't just picking a city, right? You're picking an identity. Take Aurora, for example. It's totally defined by these refined, golf-influenced pockets and beautiful ravines. But then compare that to Newmarket, which is heavily centered around family practicality, trail access, and that classic Main Street charm. Township, that's a totally different ballgame. Gated estate privacy and a huge equestrian culture. And then you have Oak Ridges, completely shaped by nature, specifically Lake Wilcox and the Moraine. You're shocking in the exact same region, but you are looking at wildly different lifestyles.
And that brings us to the actual land. Look, in the luxury market, land is never just a number on a page. It's the canvas for your privacy. It completely shapes your arrival experience. Just think about the feeling of driving up a long, private, tree-lined driveway versus pulling into a standard, manicured residential street. It dictates how you use the outdoors, your potential to expand later, and really just the emotional vibe of the entire property.
Which brings us to Part 3, Nature and Daily Routines, the micro view.
One of the massive draws of York Region luxury is the fact that you can stay totally connected to the Greater Toronto Area while living right next to some incredible outdoor elements. We're talking places like Lake Wilcox and the Oak Ridges Moraine, the Tom Taylor Trail, Fairy Lake and Newmarket, and Aurora's huge park system. These aren't just bullet points on a listing. Having a trail system basically in your backyard, or mature tree-lined streets, that becomes an integral part of your daily life.
And this highlights a really interesting contrast. On one hand, you've got the online listing, the gorgeous photos, the room counts, the perfectly staged square footage, but on the flip side, you have your daily reality. A house can look like an absolute dream on a screen, but how does it actually feel when you test the drive? What's your stress level going to be like during the morning school drop-off? The right home absolutely has to support your real day-to-day reality, not just look good on a Pinterest board.
Which leads us to an absolutely critical question, and it's one you should always ask yourself. Will this home still fit your routines 5 to 10 years from now? Because family needs evolve, work patterns change. Whether you are looking in a really established Newmarket neighborhood or a huge rural estate in King Township, you've got to ask yourself if the property offers that long-term flexibility.
All right, Part 4. Prestige lifestyle anchors, difficult to replicate. When buyers are doing these highly targeted luxury searches, they pay super close attention to prestige anchors. These are things like proximity to the Magna Golf Club or Beacon Hall Golf Club down in Aurora, or the deep-rooted equestrian and rural estate identity you find in King Township.
or having direct private access to the Lake Wilcox waterfront. These are highly specific anchors, and they command massive lifestyle attention from buyers looking for those exact exclusive experiences. But let's ground this in reality for a second. As the source guide points out, these anchors do not guarantee value, but they can help explain why certain homes attract stronger lifestyle attention. So, while prestige anchors pull a lot of emotional weight and are highly sought after, you still have to weigh them as part of a broader, practical decision matrix. They're a great hook, but the rest of the home still has to actually make sense for you.
Finally, Part 5. Strategies for buyers and sellers, theory to practice.
If you're buying, you need to apply some pretty strict filters. First up, does the community match how you actually live, and not just how you want to be perceived? Second, and this is a huge one, always verify school boundaries directly with the board. Never rely purely on a listing description for that. Third, really assess that long-term routine fit we just talked about. And lastly, look practically at the carrying costs, the zoning, and the hidden maintenance of things like large estates or well and septic systems.
Now, on the flip side, if you're selling a luxury property in York region, your positioning strategy is literally everything. You want to lead with the setting. Highlight the privacy, the mature trees, that whole arrival experience. Second, tailor your marketing to your specific buyer profile. You wouldn't market at Aurora Golf Home the same way you'd market an Oak Ridges nature retreat, right? And third, tell the entire lifestyle story. Don't just list out room dimensions. Sell the actual daily experience.
This really sums up the core transactional truth of the luxury market. A buyer might remember a stunning kitchen or really high-end finish, but they act like they actually put in an offer when the whole lifestyle story clicks into place, when they can vividly picture their daily routines, their lazy weekends, and their future unfolding perfectly in that space.
So, I'm going to leave you with a final provocative thought to chew on. When you're looking at the York region market, are you just buying a house, or are you actually buying your ideal lifestyle? Keep these 5 anchors in mind, and you are going to navigate the luxury real estate market with a whole new level of clarity. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.